sometimes we have to stop and think new. That's very important. And I think the most important thing in visual communication is that you have to something to tell. Why do you want to communicate if you have nothing to tell? So that's important. What do I want to say? And I think that's more important than the style. I tell my students it's more important, perhaps you have to adapt your style to what you want to say. That's very important. Okay, next image. And I have to say I'm a very traditional teacher. I think illustration starts with drawing. I think mostly I had some students, they could not draw. When they wanted to draw a human, it looked like a potato. But they did very nice illustrations, nevertheless, because they had a good feeling of form. They could not draw something they saw, but they had a good feeling of form and color. Nevertheless, I think the classical way to illustration is drawing. Perhaps next image. I show some, I drew a lot before my studies and even during. Next image. I did a lot of sketches. The images are a little bit too long, but it's better than before. These are sketches I did in Paris. I walked around the town and I sat down in cafes and I draw people. Next image. And what is interesting, when you draw these people, they move. So you have to look exactly and you have to understand the form very quick and then you draw it. So I think it's very important not just to draw from photos, but to draw from life. So next image. When you draw a car, it doesn't move when it's like this, so it's easier. Next image. And when I was drawing, I always try to have a certain rhythm in my drawings, very important for me. These are drawings of my sketchbooks. Next image. So the last image was Paris. This is where I live. It's in the north of Hamburg. I'm more a country guy. I'm not a city guy. Bogota frightens me a little bit. It's so big. It's very interesting and people are lovely, but for a country guy, it's big. So this is a typical farm. Una finca alemán. Next image. And then I started to take my drawings and do engravings. It was a process. Next image. And these engravings were based on all the drawings I did in sketchbooks. And also here you can see I'm very concentrated on the rhythm of drawing. Next image. But there came one moment in the studies I said, this is not illustration what I did, it's drawing. So I'm thinking, what is the difference between drawing and illustration? Very interesting question. When is a drawing an illustration and when is a drawing just a drawing? Not just, it's art. But there's a difference. And I thought a lot about that and I did a lot of personal research. And I tried to do a first illustration and find out what could be a way to tell something. I think like I told you, for me illustration is visual communication. Next image. And then I got this. This was one of my first, what I would call my first illustrations. It was a black and white acrylic. And I took by heart, I took all what I've drawn in my sketchbook and then I put it away. I didn't look at my drawings and just by heart I drew these scenes. And I was a student, I was in the 6th semester, and I thought, okay, I don't need a diploma to work for journals. I just went straight to journals and I asked, I'm an illustrator, I want to work for you. And so I got my first jobs. Next image. And one of my first jobs was, and this is funny, because it was Garcia Márquez, Simón Bolívar, El General en su laberinto. So it was in one of the biggest German magazines. They did a preprint. Before the book came out, in this journal they showed some capitals. So it was about 16 weeks, and every week I had to, and then the book came out in Germany. So I was very happy. Next image. So please excuse me, I know he's a hero, but I drew him like this, but he was already old in the story. I don't want to offend your national hero. But you see, it's okay, it's a little bit too, the image is a little bit too high, but I think it works. You see, I always think of composition, very important. I think beneath drawing, composition is very important. What you can do is work with collage. I worked a lot with collage, I don't show it now, but I did a lot of abstract collages to train composition. Next image. And then I did a lot of paintings. All these paintings is acrylic paintings. And this was for another journal, and it was about Fado, Portugal music. Next image. I never wanted to do children books. I thought, I'm a grown-up man. I'm a serious man. I cannot do children books. And then I was in an editorial illustration class. And then the children book teacher, professor, called me at home and said, I want you to take part. We have a competition. Like Gina and Andres, they know, my Colombian students who are in the public, we like to do competitions with editors and so on. So he asked me to take part. And I started, during the whole semester, I was in his class, and I did a very, very boring illustration. 3 months I worked on a classical children book illustration, a tiny mouse with aquarelle, and I thought it would be for children. And then it was just 3 weeks before we should give the competition, we should send it. I said, all what I did was bullshit. I stopped it, and I thought new, and I didn't sleep. I just worked day and night. I did a new concept. And next image. Because at that time I did a lot of painting, and I stopped thinking this is for children. I just did something which was important for me. Even the story, I didn't want to have a typical children book stories. And I won one of the prizes. So with the first stuff I did, never I would have got a prize. So sometimes you have to listen to your heart, very important, and stop everything and try new. Or destroy. It's really nice to destroy pictures and paint over it. I like destroying pictures. Next image. Next image. And next image. So I won one of the prizes. I was in the 6th semester in studies, and they printed my first book. I was really happy. So next image. But then I had the feeling, oh, this is not a good painting. I wanted to try something new, so I did personal research. Next image. So, okay, it's a little bit, but okay. I think it works. So I did this personal research. These are paintings on canvas, 50 to 60 centimeters with acrylic. On a frame. Next image. Next image. Next image. And then I thought I could make a book out of this. I first had some images, and I thought I will make a book about trying to find a place where to live. Next image. And I found an editor. The editor, we made a contract. I got an advance. They printed the first images, and then they phoned me and said, we stop everything. This is not for children. And it was a big shock. I was really, it was not the money. I didn't really, well, I need money like everyone, but it was more, they didn't print my book. It was this feeling, wow, they don't print my book. So I think every one of you says it was a very, very bad moment in my career. So, but I said, okay, I think it's also because I had a very bad story, but next image. So I tried something new. I had turned from painting to drawing. Next image. And I went to see another, the same editor, and he said, okay, this we like, but it should be a little bit more for children. Next image. And so I tried to be a little bit more funny. Next image. And then I found something which I liked and I think could also be for children, and it was this book, and it won some German picture book prizes. Next image. Story about a dog, a hobo, who had no home, and he searched a home, but he was very big and he was scared, and there was a little boy who wanted to make a circus, and he took, next image, he took this dog and he created his circus, and then, next image, he asked his mother, and his mother there was no husband, she was educating him alone, and he asked him if he could come into the house, and she said yes, and then he was not alone, and fortunately he could clean, so everyone was happy. So I continued with that style. Next image. And what I saw the book before, I remarked it's better for me to work with an author, because even my first book, which one I won a prize, one of the jury members asked me, okay, would you have painted so nice images if you wouldn't have written such a bad text? So I thought, okay, my texts are not the best. I try to work with authors. And here it's with Goethe, and this is actually my author. I work with him since 30 years. We work together. We have been teachers in the same school, and one day I asked him, I think you're a good writer. Could you write a text for me? And we did this book, and it also was nominated for a prize, but I think not because of the images, I think because of the text. It was really a good text. So next image, it was about work, about what you have to do, and it started like, okay, waking up comes alone, but then you have to decide what you want to do. After waking up, the trouble starts. You have to decide every movement you do. Very good text. And it was about jobs and what people do. Okay, next image. You can be a fisherman or a carpenter. Next image. Or you can be an artist. Do you know the famous picture of Matisse with a pigeon? When he is drawing the pigeon, and he is holding the pigeon like this because he does not see very well in drawing. And this is the unknown brother of Matisse, Albert, and he's not so famous, but he is a tattoo guy. But he's like Matisse, he cannot really see. He have to take the pigeon and look like this. So, next picture. Macbeth. The deed is done. And you see, I like to play with perspective. The important, people bigger than the non-important. So, okay, next image. And this was the last book I did with Dieter Böge. It's in Spanish. It's traduced in Spanish. It's a family story. Next image. And the guy you saw on the cover, he is the grandfather of the whole family, and he's living in the age of Lascaux, 20,000 years ago. And he tells the whole family story to his grandson in the future. And next image, there he was, in the first image he was in the cave with his brother and his family. There he is with his brother in struggle. Next image. And what's special about the book, he dies on the 4th page. He dies, but he starts talking. I had a nice funeral, it was very beautiful, everyone was singing, and so on and so on. A very nice text. So we went through, next image, through the history, next image. So, but we tell the story of the world in a family story. It's not a classical historical. Next image. And my author has a very, very fine humor, very smart humor, and I try to put it a little bit in the illustration. Next image. What I like about illustration also is research. We did a lot of research because it was a 130 pages book, and you had a whole story of humankind, so 60 illustrations is not much. But what I like is we learned that in Germany schools were founded, the public schools, not for the rich, the public schools, were founded in 1600. And then they mostly studied the Bible and moral, how to behave. But then the dukes and the king, they remarked the soldiers, the army, they need to have mathematics. So they told the teachers, you have to teach mathematics. And the teacher said, what? I have to teach mathematics? I quit the job. They didn't want to learn because they didn't know it. So they wanted that the children studied something new, but they didn't want to study something new. I think we are a little bit like this, humans. We think we know everything, the other one has to learn. So that's very interesting, this kind of details in history. Next image. So in this book you have a lot, but it's also about that humans are able to create enormous complex structures. They can do very beautiful things. Next image. But they can also destroy. This is an image after the World War. I have to tell, the story is more about Europe. It was in Lascaux, so this is World War II. And perhaps here I can say, for this book I worked with a lot of references, photos and so on. And perhaps you know it as your illustrators. It's always a problem. Can I take a photo? Can I copy it? It's also this question, authenticity, what is mine, what is from someone else. So what I do for this book, I did a lot of collage in Photoshop. I took images, free images, put them new together so that I create my own image, not just copy one image. So this was about 3 or 4 cities in Germany who has been destroyed, and I did a new collage. Okay, next image. I did a lot of editorial agency. I did not so many books. Next image. Again, Fado, I worked for big journals, but here it's a step back. This was at the same time I did my first book. I had the first jobs for editorial. Next image. And you can see this, I loved painting. All this is acrylic painting on canvas. And they are 60 to 40 and sometimes bigger. Because at that time we didn't have computers. There was no computer during my studies. You had to do everything by hand. And you did a picture, and a courier came, took it, and it came to a photograph. He did a photo, he did a lithograph, and it was a much more complicated process than today. So you created more originals. Next image. And all these images I show now are for magazines, well-known German, Spiegel, Geo, and so on. Okay, next image. So I really like this painting style. Next image. Next image. And this was an agency work. It was for the European Commission. They invite every year one illustrator from every European country to make one illustration. The topic of this, they make a calendar, and the topic of this calendar was professions, and I had to draw the judge. I wanted to show that the judge is holding the whole society a little bit, and I wanted to show a female judge, not a male judge. Perhaps it's androgyne, you cannot really tell. I wanted, it looks a little bit androgyne, not male, not female. And this is also acrylic on canvas. Next image. And then I did a brochure for the European Commission about freedom of movement. It said that everyone can move where he wants in Europe. Next image. You can build your house and live where you want in Europe or work where you want. This was for Ogilvy, a very big company for advertising, and I did the business report. It's a very nice job when you can do a business report for a big company. It's always, and I was totally free to do what I want. And I took advertising as a fishing process. Next image. Next image. And what I like about illustration when you work for an editorial is that you get every week a new topic. During time I did a column. There were two writers, two journalists. They wrote every week a column, and what I like is that every week you get a text and you have to make the illustration and then it's gone. It's not like a book. A book you're 6 months or 1 year on a book, and it's a really heavy process. And I like every week new topic, and that's really nice. So this was about gender transforming. Next image. This was a nice job. I got a text about the possibility to like a city even when it's in Germany. I think the Swiss don't like the Germans, perhaps. But this is Hamburg. This is our home city, and it's a famous guy on the fish market I have drawn. Next image. So the space you have, there was a headline of the column. It was for typo between the two images. Next image. And you get totally different topics like Easter holidays, or all this stuff. Next image. This was a very nice job with my author Dieter. We 5 years we did a comic strip in the biggest Sunday journal in Germany, and it was called Dr. Domino's tragic strip, the world history of Dr. Domino, and we picked up tragical moments in world history. And the first one, perhaps the traducer can traduce, Aua, verschwinde mit deinem verdammten Feuer und nimm dein dämliches Rad gleich mit. It was about the first miserable inventor. He had invented the fire and the wheel, but the sheaf burned himself, and he said, go out with your shit. So it's a tragical moment, huh? He's very clever, but the sheaf doesn't recognize it. Or downstairs, are these you women over there? Perhaps, I'm not sure. So he cannot really see. Next image. Or we have downstairs or upstairs. The Pope says you need more time for the creation than God did. And he said, yes, but I have to draw it head over. It's more complicated. Or downstairs, the cowboys, I like you, Joe, but since 2,000 miles you did not speak one word. And he said, what is it? What have you? He said, burnout. So very typical actual thing. Next image. Or the first image, it's an arena in Rome, the gladiators and a not so strong Christian. And they say, show what you got, Christ. And he thinks, I'm very happy that I'm baptized, because he will go in heaven. Okay, next image. So again, after a phase when I had a long job, I always tried to do something new. And I tried to make a new phase of personal research. I did a retreat. I had a phase, I went back and I wanted to change my drawings. I wanted to make something completely new. And I did these drawings about my own body feelings. And I did a series of nearly 100 images. And then happened something very strange. It was just for me, but one art director, a political chef of the Frankfurter Allgemeine, he saw these images, he said, sell them to no one, I will come to Hamburg, I take my car, I come to the atelier, I want these images. Next image. And so he picked my images, they were already ready. These are very small images, A5 with a pencil. And he put them together with a text of Ralph Dahrendorf. He is a sociologue, not socialist perhaps. He was a professor in the university in England, and the Queen put him a knight because he's a very, very nice and clever man. I love his text. These were his texts from his lessons in university, and that was a full page, and they took his text and they put my image in. So it was two visions of humans. His vision, my vision, and that was really a special moment for me. It was a very personal thing to get there. Next image. So this for me was my ancestors, my father, my grandfather. They are all in my arm and they make me strength. That was my idea. Next image. Thinking, talking, categories. So next image. And then I had a phase I always have small series. The last one was body feelings. This series is called Senoras and Senores. And I wanted to be more simple. I thought I could be more simple. I want to have a message, but why do all this painting? It could be very simple. So I did this, next image. And then I wanted to make an illustration. Sometimes you see a very nice bottom and the bus, you're just behind. And you're not a sexist, you're not an aggressive person, but you want to touch. It's like an apple. And then I had a first drawing and it was a man touching. And I thought, oh, it was sexual harassment. It was not what I wanted. And I thought, okay, shit, I cannot do this drawing. And then I had the idea, okay, if a woman, perhaps a woman also wants to touch the bottom of a woman, because it's nice. And I did this drawing, and it had a total different meaning. It was not this aggressivity of a man versus a wife. And she's blushing a little bit. And next image. And then I had to do illustrations for a book, and there came the topic sexual harassment. And now I did my first idea. This is a hand of a man, and you have a complete different meaning. And this is interesting. This is what I told you about visual communication. It means that we work with symbols. And images are text. Very important. Images are text. And if you go back to the last image, if you go back one image, this text is another text, and you go forward to the next image, then this image. And in this book, I had to do illustration. It was not for children. It was a lot of heavy topics like sexual harassment, and next image, death, pain. And there was also one topic, Hitler and hell. Someone was writing, if there's a hell and God is existing, Hitler should be in the hell. And I made a lot of sketches. I was angry against Hitler. I said, I make devils, and they will torture Hitler, and he will burn, and I said, no, stop. It's too complicated. I will do something very simple. Next image. And it was better. And I wanted him to have sad eyes. He's still a Nazi, okay, even in hell. You see it in this. But I don't think everyone is 100% bad. So in his eyes, I wanted to have this little sign of soul. Next image. And in other books, next image, I stayed with this very simple style. I liked it. Next image. A mother and her girl. So you see, it's very different from my complex paintings. I wanted to be more simple. Next image. And then I always go back to drawing and sketchbook. Next image. And this is a very interesting process to come back to my initial question. Style or authenticity. And I made the experience when you really do what you like, and when it's not the worst drawing in the world, you will find someone who likes it. And these drawings I did I think 25 years ago, this drawing, or 20 years ago. Next image. And this drawing I did perhaps 5 years ago. I always continued to have this black form, this kind of monk. I don't know why, I always was inspired by this black dress. And next image. And I always continued, and then I got a job from Frankfurter Allgemeine, and I was very happy. They phoned me and they said, could you illustrate Schubert Winterreise? And this is a great classic musician. It's a great honor. Many illustrators, many artists in Germany have illustrated it, and it should appear. These are 24 songs, and it should appear every week, every Sunday. And I was thinking, how will I do these illustrations? And I looked how the other illustrators did these illustrations. And I was in Bologna on the book fair, and in the evening I was alone in a restaurant. I drank wine, I draw sketches, and I draw this sketch. And then I thought, why not like this? Next image. And then I phoned them and I said, I want to do it abstract. I want to do like a modern ballet or modern theater. I want to take the classical stuff, but make it like modern theater, very abstract. And I was very happy. He said, wonderful, do it. Go on. So 24 weeks, I illustrated this. Next image. And it was also a classical comic strip in the journal. Next image. Next image. And next image. Next image. And last image. So this is my last image for my own work and for this topic. I don't know if we have some more time or if we're out of time, Jose? 10 minutes? Wow. Okay, I can tell. Okay, I like this image because this is a little bit my mental state. I always like to do painting, drawing, and other stuff. So it's always, what shall I do? It was for this illustration, for this journal, but it's also a nice. There's so many things in life which are nice, which you could do, and you always think, shall I do this or that? So personally, I really like this illustration. So this was the end of my own artwork. If I have 10 minutes left, I want to show just a very short perspective on our university. If some of you want to come to Hamburg, study with us, you can write me. Next image. Okay, this is, if you want to see all the images I've shown, this is my blog. And you have to go on archives. You don't scroll through, you just go on archives and then you see what you're interested. Okay, next image. I'm working at the HAW Hamburg. It's a University for Applied Science. Next image. It's the biggest study program in Germany. Mostly in Germany, when you study illustration, you have a graphic design study program and a very, very small part of illustration, one professor. We are the only university in Germany who have bachelor and master from first semester to last semester, just illustration. It means also we are a little bit weak in typo and layout. We draw from the morning to the evening, drawing, painting, printing. Next image. We have a bachelor with 45 students a year. Our bachelor is 7th semester. We have in a master 25 students a year, 3 semesters. And we have 5 professors for illustration. And we have the topics animation, book illustration, comic, editorial illustration. We have a new, very young professor. She's just for interactive illustration because we thought games is not enough. Because you can do more than just games with interaction. And we have a very good scientific illustration department. Next illustration. Hamburg is a nice city. If you want to come. We have two big, it looks like the ocean, but it's just a big river. It's a perspective, yes. We have two big rivers, they join together. Next image. Hamburg is a little bit like Venice. We have a lot of canals. And in the middle of the city, there are two big lakes. Next image. This is our university. This is where I go every morning. Nice place. And we have a second place. Next image. Campus Armgardstraße. Here is more fashion, and the first image is more illustration and communication design. Next image. Most of the German schools for design have no more painting classes. It's done. We are like a dinosaur. A German dinosaur is Hamburg, HW Hamburg. Because we do all these techniques where you get very dirty hands. Next image. And we change between more realistic painting. Next image. Or also this is I think 1.50 meters to 3 meters, very big canvas paintings. Next image. We have drawing modules, so sketchbook. Next image. A lot of nude classes, nude drawing with models. Next image. And also more free drawing classes where you have a topic and you have to do your own image. Next image, like here. Next image. We have very big printing section. I was 6 years the head of department, and I said I want a very good classical printing section. And they called me a dinosaur. They said, why? What do you want with all this old stuff? You have computers. I said, no, we want a very big printing section, and we got it. And now many students come to us, especially foreign students, because for example we have little stones. All the schools in Germany, they sold the little stones, and we said, we buy it. We buy the little stones. And this is very nice because the students can learn all these old techniques, woodcut, etching, litho. Next image. But we also have Wacom. We also have the very good 3D program. We want both, the modern techniques and the old techniques. I think that's better. This is a 3D animation illustration. Next image. We have a very good scientific illustration professor. Next image. And they do really, really good stuff. It's really high class images. Next picture. Then we have media illustration, which consists also comic. Next image. We have interactive illustration and games. Next image. Where you do a lot of character design and programming and so on. Next image. And this is my class, picture book for children. And this is nearly the last image I wanted to show. Next image. And what I tell my students is, if you want to do picture books or book illustration, you have to love books. So thank you for listening.